This is part two of the Texas tragedy. We were interrupted by connection issues after 22 minutes of part one. So this is part two of the same thing. We're in Genesis chapter 3. We're reading Genesis chapter 3 from verses 1 to 7, and we're answering the question, where was the Most High when these dear children and that innocent teacher were slaughtered yesterday in Texas? Genesis chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. Now, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Most High had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for Yah doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. I want you to notice a couple of things here. The dragon came at the woman. He lied to her. And he told her that Yah, he was implying that Yah was holding her and her husband back from being gods. That if they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which they were told specifically not to eat, that they would ascend to higher levels of consciousness. And she was listening to this lie. Okay, let's continue. Verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. This moment changed everything. You want to know why? You want to know where Yah was? First hard question to be answered tonight. You want to know where he was? He was on his throne. So then the next question is, why did he allow this to happen? Because man chose to be his own God. When Eve ate of that tree, and then Adam joined her in eating of that tree, they bought into the doctrine of the devil, of the dragon, who said, you can be gods. And to this day, mankind, in every aspect of this Babylonian system, in the government, the religion, the entertainment, it's always man as God. Your leading religious powers are man-made. They're not what this book says to be. They're man-made. They use this book to create man-made religions. Your three Abrahamic religions are man-made religions. And of course, in every aspect of life, man thinks he can save himself. Or he depends on a made-up, created being of white Jesus in a religion created by man called Christianity to save him. You want to know where the Most High was? He was on his throne, working to prepare to overthrow this system. And in every situation, there's an argument between Yah and angels of the devil. What is the argument? It's in the book of Job. Let's take a look at it. Job chapter 1. Job chapter 1. This is the hard truth today, but it's got to be said for Yah's chosen ones to understand where we're at and why we're here. Okay? So the woman decided she was going to be a goddess and she was going to make her husband a god. She decided that. Sisters, let me just tell you very quickly. If you could just pray for your brothers, because they're ordained to lead you. If you find yourself trying to lead them, there's already a problem. Just the other day, a sister, and the Spirit already warned me when I saw it, was coming on to quote on my videos and then to try to teach me. And I expressed to her that was wrong to do. And she didn't apologize for doing it. Instead, enforced more. What you sisters don't understand, which I want to explain to you now, whenever you find yourself trying to lead men, you are working for Asatan. Whenever you find yourself trying to lead men, you are working for Asatan. Sometimes you are in a position where you are without a man and you have to train your sons as best you can. That's also a function of the system that we're now in. And it's not an easy thing, as any sister would tell you. It's the most difficult thing for a sister to try to raise a man. Very difficult. And when they're successful, it's a miracle, because it's very difficult to do. And as Hebrews, the system has set us up that way to destroy us. Let's look at Job. Job chapter 1. Watch this conversation, brethren, because it is the basis of what happened yesterday. Okay? Let's take a look. Job chapter 1, beginning at verse 1, going from verse 1 down to verse 7. Job chapter 1, from verse 1 to 7. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Yah and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so. When the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed Yahweh in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. And there was a day when the sons of Yah came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Asatan came also among them. And Yahweh said unto Asatan, whence cometh thou? Then Asatan answered Yahweh and said, from going to and fro in the earth, from walking up and down in it. What's going on here? Asatan is representing the earth in this scenario. Why is he representing the earth? Because Adam gave him the title. He's the prince of the power of this world. That's why Messiah said, the prince of this world cometh and have nothing in me. Because the systems of the earth right now are run by Asatan. We've said it often. Because Asatan is a liar from the beginning, all the systems of the earth that run the earth are based on lies. They're based on lies and deception. Nothing you see is actually exactly what it is, because everything is based on lies and deception. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities. The Bible says against powers, that's systems, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That is the systems of the earth that we are in. Now, angels, the Bible shows us, and let me show you this in the Psalms. Psalms 34 Psalms 34. Let's read Psalms 34 and verse 7. Psalms 34 and verse 7. This is hard truth, brothers. I can't even sugarcoat, but it must be said because Most High is having me say it. Not trying to hurt anybody, just trying to awaken and speak the truth. Psalms 34, verse 7. Actually, I'm going to read verse 7 and 8. The angel of Yahweh encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that Yahweh is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. Brothers and sisters, let's combine these two situations. So Asatan is claiming to represent the earth. He's a liar and a murderer. But Yah says here in Psalms that the angel is sent to encompass those of us that belong to him, and he delivers us. So what does that mean, these two things, when you put it together? Asatan is always claiming to represent the earth. He wants to commit as much murder and mayhem as he can. Angels are sent to protect people. So he's always, that is Asatan, arguing against the angelic protection, like he did with Job. He's always arguing against the angelic protection and demanded that it be removed. Now, there's some people that the Most High allows Asatan's evil to come upon to save them. He withdraws the angelic protection, and Asatan arranges their death to save them. And there's some instances like this would happen yesterday where the Most High can't argue and allows Asatan to do what he's going to do, because that's what the adults chose. Those children didn't choose yesterday. They were too young to make any choice of good and evil. They were little babies. But because of the powers of this system and the powers of this earth, and let's specifically talk about the United States of America. Let's specifically talk about that. Malcolm X actually said it. It was this particular statement that caused the official separation between him and the Nation of Islam. It was after the murder of John F. Kennedy. And if you recall the statement, and you can look it up on YouTube, it's out there. They asked him what did he think about the assassination of the president. And he said, it's like the chickens coming home to roost. That's what he said. He said it was like the chickens coming home to roost. They said, what do you mean? He said, I'm an old farm boy. He said, America has provoked violence both at home and abroad. And he said, now violence has struck down their chief man, because the chickens come home to roost. Brothers and sisters, somebody said, I forgot who, but I saw it. Somebody said, somebody on either a YouTube platform or on television, I can't remember who, but he said, the United States was founded on white supremacy and racism. And I thought, man, that's an interesting statement, because if that statement is true, then the United States can never be completely healed until white supremacy and racism doesn't exist. But if the nation was founded on white supremacy and racism, then in order for those things to be removed, it would actually mean the destruction of the whole house called the United States. Because if it was foundationally made on these things, you take away the foundation, what happens to the house? It collapses. And the hard truth is, the founding of the nation was violent. You see, back in the 90s, lots of politicians were talking about gangster rap and how violent gangster rap it was and how it was inciting violence. And many of the young, at that time, they were young rappers, and they were saying, we did not invent violence in the United States. The United States was violent from its beginning. And these are truths that the people of this nation don't want to face. They don't want to face the fact that the nation was founded on violence. That when the Pilgrims came here, they didn't sit down and eat with the Indians. They brought disease that killed the Indians. And they were trying to take all the land of the Indians. And then when the Indians didn't take their $24 or their little trinkets and beads, they would slaughter men, women, and children and take the land. So that the nation was founded on violence. And anytime the nation was threatened, it responded with violence, both within and without. Other places like the Philippines or Puerto Rico or some of the other islands were taken over by violence. Other nations that had overthrown governments, like Peru, were overthrown by violence that started in our country. So that everything that's been built here has been built on the backs of people who have received violence. And those poor little babies yesterday, unfortunately, were born in a country that's violent. The politicians, many people were calling, I saw even a basketball coach calling for action to enforce laws to change gun laws. And that's not going to change unless the object and aim is to take guns from everybody, which is probably is the object and aim. But you would have thought 20 years ago, 10 years ago, when Sandy Hook happened, and that man walked in that elementary school in Connecticut and killed all those little babies. You would have thought that when Dylan Roof came into the church and slaughtered the church people in South Carolina, you would have thought that maybe after Columbine High School 20 years ago, they might have changed the gun laws. But they didn't. Because this nation is built on violence. And as it was built also on white supremacy, if you will take away the violence, the nation must be destroyed because it's foundational to the existence of the nation. You see, brethren, you can't be violent in your beginnings. And then when you take over and you're successful and your violence gives you enormous power and wealth, all of a sudden decide you want peace. It doesn't work that way. Notice again, Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. It's like, I didn't like Godfather Part 3. I love Part 1 and 2 because of all the subplots. But Part 3 was one thing about it that was real. At the end, Michael Corleone got what he had coming to him. Michael Corleone had defended his family by being violent. He killed the police captain and his chief rival, his first two murders. And after that, after he became the Don, he had many people killed, including all his enemies. In fact, when his consigliere asked him and said, "What, you trying to kill everybody?" He said, "No, not everybody, just my enemies." And in Godfather 3, he got what he had coming. And brothers and sisters, that's what the Bible teaches us. Notice what it says in Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13, beginning at verse 10. Revelation 13 and verse 10. Notice what it says. Revelation 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. So if you're aggressive and violent, and you go and take other people's stuff and enrich yourself on their backs, eventually you're going to want peace and you won't get it. Eventually, your little kids are going to be in danger of the same violence that you perpetrated. Because in the modern vernacular, what comes around goes around. And also, what they say about what they call it, karma